Welcome to the Give Back Lab. I'm your host, Daniella De Grande. You've entered a space where bold voices, real stories, and unfiltered conversations come to life. Here in the lab, we're breaking bias, shifting thinking, and exploring the power of giving back through truth, vulnerability, and diverse perspectives. We celebrate diversity of thought and everything beautiful that makes us human. This isn't just talk, it's real, it's raw, and it's exactly the kind of space we need. We're unlearning, relearning, and evolving together. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on the Give Back Lab. I'm Daniella De Grande, and today with me, I have Valerie Hope. I'm so honored to have you here with us, Valerie. Valerie is a speaker, leadership coach, and author. She's here to talk to us today about a little bit about what she's working on, her journey, and where she's going. So I'm very excited to start this conversation. Hi, Valerie, and thank you for being
Hello.
with us.
Hello, Daniela. Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, excellent. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're working on, your journey, how you got here, and give us a little insight into who Valerie is.
Oh, so many things. I could start with, I guess the thing that pops up based on the idea of this being your give back lab, right? I love the title of that. Um,
Yeah.
I'm a person that's fascinated by connections with people, how they're made, the impact they have. Everything that I've gotten that's been amazing in my life has come through some sort of connection. My business, every job that I've had has come through some kind of connection. The relationship that I have has come through connection. Like there's so many wonderful things that I attribute that to. And so when I think about the work that I do, a lot of it is connecting with people, having meaningful conversations, whether that's as a coach or if I'm facilitating a conversation in a workshop. I'm in the process of, as you mentioned, of writing a book. And this book is really about how connections help shape our lives so that we can grow and thrive. And I also have a podcast, so I'm very well versed in the podcasting world, like you are now. And it's called the Circle of Hope, which is all about how we build these relationships. And in fact, I bring people who have had a profound impact in my own life to talk about the impact of relationships and whether it's reciprocal or not, or how do you go about asking for the support that we need, things like that. So that's a touch of the things that I'm excited about. I don't know if there's one of these that seems to align best for the conversation you want to have with me, but yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy to say
no,
more.
I mean, I love that. I think that part of being human and the celebration of being human is connections, right? And so, sometimes we call that networking, but really it's connections at the
Yeah,
core. And
yeah.
it's whether it's an intentional networking event or meeting someone out in a
Mhm.
coffee shop, at a supermarket, in your
Yeah.
travels, that connection can be so meaningful, and not only for you from a business perspective or to influence your life, but what connection means to that other person, right? That
Mhm.
smile as you cross someone
Yeah.
in the street, that hello, how are you? Have a nice day.
Mhm.
The actual act of seeing someone
Yeah.
and being seen, I think, is so huge. So I love that you work in that connection space. And I'm sure that through your work, you've seen how that really can affect people positively, right? And
Huge.
not just on a business level, but also a personal level. So I'd
Yeah.
like to talk with you about that, th- that connection piece, right? Where have you seen that make great impact and strides other than the obvious? Because we all talk about the obvious, right? Oh, networking, get your name out there. But what does that really mean for a person,
Yeah.
that connection?
Well, I would say that it's not so much about networking. I think networking, at least the perspective that so many leaders have around networking is a numbers game. Get to know as many people or pitch your business and your products or your services to as many people as possible. Get to know as many people in the room, work the room. Like we have all of these phrases and all these ways of interacting with people that can be very transactional. And so, what I do with the leaders that I work with, and I do myself, is I mean, I hate small talk. I am an extrovert as all as all extroverts can be. I am so energized by people, but I'm diminished by how are you? How was your day? Look at the weather. If it stays there too long, I'm gonna check out very quickly and I'm gonna be drained. And so what I work with people on and what I encourage even myself to do is find something to be interested in about the
Right.
person. And so that's all. I mean, that's really basic is to be interested. You don't have to be interesting. You don't have to come up with like the best thing to say or the elevator pitch and all that stuff. I think that also can be very transactional and formulaic. Um, and so, for example, some of the easiest things that I think people can do. I have clients, for example, that want a promotion, and in order to have a promotion, they have to know certain people, right? Or be known by certain people. Whereas the instinct would be, let me show what I can do. Let me show off a little bit in this meeting. Let me answer more questions to be noticed. I actually say, you know what? What you could do is the opposite. Show an interest, a genuine interest for something
Mhm.
that person is committed to, either the project they're committed to, or something about their life or their career or their approach to leadership or something that you find fascinating, even if you don't agree with it. But to be interested would mean, okay, so Daniela, I've noticed that in meetings you do XYZ. Why is that? Where does that come from? How long have you been doing that? What impact has it had? And that shifts entire relationship that person has with that individual because most people are not asking those types of questions. People are, usually thinking about the outcomes and the results and pretty surface level. And so
Right.
that's where I think it can make a huge difference. And your the title of your podcast is all about giving back. But well, I think part of the and I've shared this with you before, it's not about giving back as much as to continue to it's a cycle, right? So we give, we take, we give, we take.
Right.
So it's
Right.
not you wanna give people your attention, give people your interest, you wanna give people your presence, like you were saying earlier.
Right. And that's really what it's about. It is a give and take, right? And
Yeah,
I I mean, I created this space because I am such a naturally inquisitive person. And for me, it's all about loving to learn about humans and what makes them tick,
yeah,
right? And I have worked in such global capacities that I love culture and I love to understand what each culture is like and why they do the things they do and why they embrace what they embrace because I'm naturally curious and
mhm,
and I want to learn as much as I can about the people that I'm interacting with and the people that my children are interacting with
yeah.
and the people that make this world what it is, right? And
Mm,
so I'm a big believer in meeting people where they're at and zero judgment, right?
awesome.
Listen, I have my opinions, I have my ideas because I am human. I keep them to myself. It is very zero judgment.
Yeah,
Um, but I wanna understand, just like you said, that was a great example. I wanna understand why it is that people do what they do. Why
mhm,
do you feel that approaching that situation that way was the best way to do it? I'm not saying you were wrong. I really
right.
genuinely wanna understand your thought process. Uh,
Huge.
I also believe a lot in learning from people that you despise. So people say to me, "You can't stand that person," or "You don't align with their ideologies and their thinking. Why do you spend so much time talking to them?"
Yeah,
Because I am genuinely curious as to what makes them tick.
yeah.
Why would you do that way?
Mm,
Um, I get that a lot. So I welcome and I love the fact that you do that and you coach people in that manner because I do think that asking those questions and getting people to open up about themselves
mhm,
rather than me pitching me to you. Let me understand you and how you think and tick so that way I can find a way that I can meet you there. I
mhm.
can better align myself in this conversation, right? So I love that. Tell us a little bit about the book that you're working on. I know that you're in the thick of it right now.
Yes. So as again, since I'm so interested in connecting with people, that was not I wouldn't say that was always the case. I mean, I kind of grew up in an environment where being independent and self-sufficient was highly prized and complimented, right? I'm the only girl. I have three brothers. Dad was in the military, mother was a school teacher. We are an immigrant family from Panama, so starting over in a military base every time we moved, all these things require a lot of self-sufficiency, especially when I was young. And so because of that, I kind of built a muscle of like a DIY mindset. Just I can do it
Yeah.
myself. I don't really need any help, but I also realized that it kept my life pretty small. Right. In order
Right.
for me to be able to manage all things myself, I there's there's only so much that I can do. And so I am a recovering DIYer when it comes to my own life. And a few years ago, I started to as I was working with other people, I noticed that, oh, this is actually quite, that's not a unique trait to have, many leaders have the same trait. And so, because I'm someone that's working on it and have been working on it for many years, I decided to start sharing some of the things that I've been working on and how I've been going about it. So I developed a framework to support leaders in identifying, first of all, like, all right, it's important to get help and support and guidance, but not just from anybody, right? You want things to be at a certain quality. You want things to be done in a certain way. You want people you can trust. And so the framework actually helps you identify, okay, what are the four types of people that you want to have in your circle? I call them the circle of influencers
Mhm.
because it gives people an opportunity to not this isn't someone that's gonna do it for you necessarily, but it could be someone that could help advance, expand, deepen,
Right.
right? The
Right.
product, the impact, anything that you wanna create. And so the book is really about identifying, are you a leader that likes to DIY things? Here's my here's why that's limiting.
Right.
And then here's a path forward that you can expand your circle so that you have a little bit more support. You make even greater impact.
Yeah. So in that circle of influence, what do you find the different types of players are, right? Because even in the DIYers, you have your strengths and you have your weaknesses. We all do as humans. So where do you find, I mean, do you have different classifications of people in different circles? How do you define
Yeah.
that, and how do you identify with what your specific circle should be or is lacking?
All right. So let's say you're working. Well, let's make this really practical so that is applicable. Is there something that you're working on right now? And by the way, your listeners, if you want to follow along, this is going to turn into like a little on the spot coaching session for Daniela, but you can insert your own answers here kind of moment. So, first of all, think about something that you're working on that either you haven't gotten it hasn't made the impact that you hoped it would make. Perhaps you haven't had it's not been sustainable, something that you just haven't been able to get as far or do as much or as often as you would like to. Or maybe you just haven't started because you're kind of overwhelmed by it. Is there
Mm,
something that you're working on? It could be something small, like decluttering your home, or it could be something not that that's small, but it could be something like that, or it could be something like, organizing a huge event to celebrate my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, right?
right.
So do you have something like that that
Oh,
comes
I
to
I
mind?
have I have things in every category, right? So, I have a closet that needs decluttering. I have an attic that needs cleaning. We can go from there to a business perspective where, I'm focused on working with clients who are focused on AI and the AI integration, but the infrastructure of their business is falling apart because they've kind of defunded that to fund the AI.
Mm,
So I can give you both for the sense of our listeners. I think that it might be good that we just apply some basic, this is my life, my closet. So let's talk
okay,
about my closet,
let's
Valerie.
talk about
My
your closet.
closet My closet needs to be done. It is not a difficult task to do. It is a very, "Does this bring me joy? Yes or no?" kind of a
Kinda Marie
thing.
Kondo that thing,
A
okay.
little Marie Kondo my closet. Now, what happens in my closet? When I walk into my closet, I have, you know, a variety of sizes, as many women do, right? I have a variety of shoes.
Mhm.
Name it. Sneakers. What color do you want? I have it. Boots. Color do you want? I have it. Um, Slides, espadrilles, heels,
Mm.
all kinds of things. Um, and so it's like, yeah, well, I'm a fashionista sometimes. So, although since COVID and working from home a lot,
Okay.
I'm like, it's the fashion is like, from the neck up is great, and then I throw on some leggings or something. Um, so 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 I work in that. Well, I need these things for corporate, and I need these things for business casual, and then I need these things for life.
Yeah.
And I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, clearly, Daniela, you're not, in the mindset to throw anything away, donate anything, whatever.
Mhm.
And I do an about face and I walk away, or
Yeah.
I really get into the groove and I start doing, and it's so for the record, my closet is about 6 inches shy of needing an egress window, and it is my closet. So there's nothing else in there except my stuff, when I will say that is way
Okay.
too much. But yeah, so I can
Alright.
give you a ton of reasons I've done an about face and walked away from it.
But this gives us kind of the picture of it, right? The world of it. So you have a closet with a lot of variety. Some of the variety you don't need anymore, but just the idea of going into it sometimes and trying to sort through all that could be a bit overwhelming. And sometimes you get in the groove. So if you were to apply the principle of the circle of influencers, the first thing you'd look at is like this goal that you have of decluttering your closet. And then I'm going to walk you through 4 different types of people that you would want to have in your circle that might help influence you in your approach, in the resources you use, in the ideas, in the mindset, all of those things. I'll go over the 4 first, and then maybe you can think about who would fit in each of these roles. And your
Mm,
listeners follow along and do the same thing for their own version of decluttering the closet or whatever goal they have.
right.
Um, so first thing is helpful to understand, well, who do you talk to now? Like knowing that you have this particular goal in mind. Is there someone that you would automatically reach out to, or people that you would automatically reach out to support you in that, Daniela?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. I would love
Okay.
some opinions on some outfits that will help me make quick decisions.
Okay. So you have
That
some
may
names of
bring
people.
you joy, but that is not a good idea, Danielle.
Awesome. So you have those people who would just say, "Hey, this is good, keep that. Nah, that's not so great anymore." Right? But
Absolutely.
so you would probably the best thing to do maybe if you wrote down the names of those people that you would get involved in this process, that's sometimes helpful, right? So let's say you bring in your friend, your daughter, etc.
Right.
So the 4 types of people you wanna have, though, have 4 different qualities, and you might find them in the same person, but we'll walk through all 4 of these now. So first is I call a parallel, type, and the parallel type is someone that has a similar vision than you. There's something that can be very comforting about working alongside someone or in tandem with somebody who's up to the same thing. So let's say you have another neighbor who also wants to declutter their closet, and the 2 of you are talking about, "Hey, how are you doing it?" "Oh, I'm doing it like this." "Have you thought about doing that? Guess what I found? This place is doing a drive, and maybe you can drop their stuff over there." Right? So parallel person would be somebody that is either doing it so they can walk alongside you as a peer. Maybe they've done it. Maybe last season they did the decluttering and they have some great best practices to share or some encouragement. Or perhaps there's somebody that you can mentor that maybe also needs it, right? Because
Mm.
sometimes we are energized and inspired to do things when we're teaching somebody else,
Oh,
right? So
absolutely.
that's a parallel person, right? Somebody that's going in the same direction, but it may be the closet, maybe they're decluttering their office or whatever. That's
Same
number
path.
one.
Same
Exactly.
path.
Same path.
Yep.
I want to get rid of some stuff, whatever
I'm
that looks
taking
like.
I'm
Yes.
taking notes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
The second type of person you want to have in your circle is what I call the connector. And so the connector is someone that connects you to information, resources, other people. And so it could be that you're talking to someone or you have somebody that you reach out to that's like, oh my goodness, my church is having a garage sale, please bring your stuff, right? That could be a
Mm,
connector. Or they might say, you know what? I read this article the other day or a book called The Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, which is a real book, by the way. And it's great. So I recommend you check that out because that also gave me a lot of inspiration when I read it. Or they might connect you to someone who's really great at organizing and does this for a living or does this for fun. And could be a great resource for you to hire or to partner with, right? So
right.
connectors, number 2. The third type of person you want to have in your circle is what I call a supporter. So, Danielle, you already said it that there are times when you just walk in there and you just see all the things and it's like, oh, no, not today, not right now, right? Maybe discouraged or overwhelmed or whatever. So, the supporter is there not necessarily to focus on the task, but to focus on your inner state. Right.
Mm,
Sometimes we need a little cheerleader, somebody like, hey, you can do it, Daniela. Remember how important this is to you.
yeah.
Or, oh my gosh, I totally feel you. Let's go do something. Let's go get an ice cream. Let's go for a walk. Right? I'm taking you on a drive. Let's kind of blow some steam. Right? Somebody that helps with your emotional state. That's what the supporter does. And so
Okay.
think of somebody that can do that for you. And then the final is probably more like that example that you gave earlier. The final one is called the challenger. And so the
Mm,
idea of the challenger is that this is a person that can give you feedback, is someone that can tell you, hey, that looks great, keep it. That doesn't look so great. Maybe you want to get rid of it. Right.
mm,
So but they love you for it. They want to be helpful. They're not there to critique, right? They're not there to judge. They're simply there to support you in having a different perspective and looking maybe with a new set of eyes. And so the challengers, I think, are really important. We underestimate the power of the challenger, but I'm very picky about who I choose to be a challenger in my life. That's not an open door for anybody to come and because people
right.
sometimes give very unhelpful feedback. And so I ask my challengers because I trust them, because I like them, because they know me or they know or I like the way they think and may be different than I think. And I'm
Mm,
very specific about who I engage to do that. So those are the 4 types of people that you would want in your circle. And by the way, one person might be all 4, right?
right. Right.
The difference is you might need to ask them to play a particular role, because sometimes people come in with like, I know I tend to be a connector for people. If I hear you're doing something and I've read a book about it or I saw a YouTube video and I'm sending you stuff. But maybe sometimes people are just like, Valerie, can we just hang out? You make me laugh, or you always have really cool stories or something. Let's go do something. And maybe it's not related to the whole decluttering thing at all. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh, it totally makes sense. And I love that. I mean, what I see from this and what I've written down, it is emotional stability.
Yes.
Right, which I think is really important as we go through things, right? Whether it's decluttering the closet, asking for promotion at work, getting a new job, finding a new client,
Yeah.
parenting your children,
100%.
being a good partner, to your friends, whatever it is. There's always that emotional component.
Yeah.
Um, and as leaders and as parents and as friends and cousins, sisters, whatever role that you're actually playing, there is always an emotional component.
Mm.
And I feel like, as women, we have been asked to temper that in certain situations, right? Because
Mm.
women are sometimes accused of being too emotional,
Mhm.
too hard, too soft, too
Yeah.
driven, too lax, right? And so I love this concept around these 4 different influencers in your life
Mhm.
because I think that it gives some balance
Yeah.
to that emotional and practical application of things in life.
Mhm.
And it helps to ground. I would see how these 4 types of influencers or these 4 influencing activities, if it comes out of one person,
Yeah.
can also help support my mental health when I'm doing it, right?
Yes.
So, how can you encourage and support and acknowledge,
Yeah.
yes, this is annoying, but don't worry, it'll feel better on the backside.
Yeah.
Yes, I know you love that outfit because you received an award in that outfit or whatever it is, right? You came
Yeah.
home from the hospital after giving birth in that outfit,
Mm.
whatever it is. I know that that outfit means something to you, but it no longer fits you, it's outdated, whatever. Why don't we
Mm.
take a picture of it and we put it in a scrapbook and we go
There you
let it
go.
go give it other life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I love that there are practical applications in your
Mhm.
framework of these different connectors
Mhm.
that also give an emotional influence, an emotional
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
How do you when you were creating this framework, what kind of things did you think about or experience that led you to develop these 4 and really say, "Uh-huh, this is
Yeah.
really where it's at." Like, how did you get to this outcome, I guess, is my question.
So it was like a combination of these 2 other frameworks that I read. So, one, I read an article by Alison Armstrong. So she has um, a whole body of work around understanding men, understanding women, and is very prolific in this topic. And she had an article or a blog post or something where she talked about the different models of romantic relationships. And there were 4 different models of romantic relationships. And when I heard the 4 models, I was like, I wonder, they don't have to just apply to romantic relationships. I feel like all relationships could probably fit in one of these categories, right? So, but hers were a little bit different, about people, you get together because you have a legacy, right? Whether that's a family business or you want to raise children, you have relationship because you want the companionship of another person. You want to travel together and hang out together. You have relationship because you want the support of another person. You need someone to take care of the family or the home, or you need someone to take care of your parents or whatever. And the other types of relationships are around people who are there to grow with one another. And I was like, this, I think I could use this, especially as we were talking about networking earlier, but doing so with intention, like connecting with
Yeah.
intention. And so that kind of started to percolate a little bit. And then I read also the book by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in one of his chapters, he talks about being proactive. That's one of the habits, to be proactive. And he describes in it this idea of a circle of concern. Is that all the things that we worry about, all the things that we care about? And many times the things that are in that circle are things that we have really no control over, right? There are things like the weather, the economy, the society, the AI. You've talked about AI. There's so many things that could be in that circle of concern. And so what Stephen Covey then talks about is that we shouldn't worry about the concern, that whole circle of concern, but identify and carve out what is our circle of influence. Like
Right.
what in within all those concerns do we actually have influence over that we can actually have some control, some semblance of control. And so, but then I was looking at that and I'm like, but yeah, that makes sense. But that little locus of control can also be very small. What if I
Yeah.
want to have bigger impact?
Right. Right.
That's why I said circle of influencers. Now, by expanding the people I connect with, do so intentionally and understanding what role they might play, I could have a greater impact on the things that concern me. And so
Yeah.
I just basically married those 2 concepts together, and out of that was born this framework.
Now, so I love that. So tell us how you got here because you're as you call yourself, a recovering DIYer, right? So what was that aha moment that brought you to this?
Mm. I mean, I'm still having them. So it's not a one and done
I
sort
love
of
it. It's growth. It's growth. It's
growth.
great.
Yeah, I've definitely evolved tons. Um, I mean, I'll just point out to a couple of instances that were really marked, and there have been little bitty ones all along, but I think the ones that have been mostly the ones that were big ahas for me were when I started my business. So I only started this business as a leadership coach and a professional speaker to do so on my own about 8 years ago. So back in 2018. And I before that I was working in a corporate job. I was there for 14 years, loved the work I was doing, and and then they eliminated the department. And so we were
Mm.
all laid off. And I kind of struggled for a while trying to figure out what I needed to do. At the same time, I was receiving I was in this wonderful personal and professional development course that I was taking and learning tons of things. And I remember somebody in the course, the facilitator of the course, who I didn't know very well. I mean, there were a whole bunch of other students there too. But I remember going and asking for her for some feedback about some project that we'd just done. And she said, Valerie, I think that you did really well with the project, et cetera. I know about your situation at work because I'd just gotten laid off, right? The week
Mm.
before or something. She said, I'm familiar with your situation at work. You know what? Do anything you want to do. Do something that scares you. And I'm like, I hardly know this lady. I mean, I just know her from this workshop. And she says something like this to me. And I remember my stomach like flipping, like just this,
Uh,
oh, like, what
yeah.
is that? Ugh. And I got kind of nervous when she said that. She said, you could even have your own business, she told me. She told me. And I was just like, okay, lady, whatever. I didn't say this to her face, but in my head, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I just wanted feedback on the project, but sure, thank you. And I
Yeah.
was, kind of being smart alecky about it, like, all right, thanks so much. I appreciate that. And then I left. Shortly after that, a peer from the class was introducing me to some of his coworkers. And he said something about, oh, this is Valerie. She's an entrepreneur. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh. And then shortly after that, I started to kind of go, okay, what in the world? What is it that these people keep saying this stuff to me? Like unwelcome, unbidden. Like I'm not asking for their advice on these things. And they seem to keep saying stuff to me. And so I started to, okay, let me get curious. So I asked my sister-in-law, as I was mentioning to her some of this stuff, I asked her, no, I didn't ask her. She offered. She said, hey, I have a friend who actually has her own business as a coach. Maybe that's something you want to consider since this is something that you did in your corporate job. And I was just like, well, maybe I love meeting people. So sure. So she introduced me to her friend. Shout out to Ginger. so, so I meet with her friend Ginger. And in our conversation, we're talking about coaching things and really like geeking out a little bit. And it was great. And then she's like, so what would you call your business? I'm like, whoa, I'm not trying to start a business. And she said, well, I mean, if you started a business, like what would you call it? And I was like, I mean, if I did, maybe something to do with the word joy. So I really like the word, blah, blah, blah. In fact, my company's called Connected Joy now. But at the time I had no idea. So I was just kind of playing with it. And she's like, ooh, joy. So we started kind of riffing on that at the time and came up with a bunch, like 3 or 4 different things. And so she said, well, pick one of these. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe something like this. She's like, I wonder if there's a domain name available. I'm like, what? So she picks up her phone, goes to GoDaddy.com, who's not
Mm.
sponsoring your podcast, but I'm just saying. So
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
puts in this name and she's like, oh, look, it's available. And I had that same feeling where my stomach kind of did the somersault. And I got really nervous when she said that. And I got angry, to be honest, because I
Hmm.
was like, lady, I don't know you. I'm just doing a courtesy to my sister-in-law. Like, what,
Uh,
there's this little,
Ginger, where have you put us?
fascinating. But what was so interesting though is that by that point it had been several weeks now, right? That these little moments had
Mm.
come up and I'd already started processing and I'm like, man, why am I mean, she doesn't mean anything by this. It's an innocent conversation. Why is it triggering me so much? And I
Right.
started to realize, number one is I was so used to making my own decisions about my direction in my career that I felt that those people, all well-meaning strangers, were pushing me to something that where I'm like, you don't know me like that. Like, so you don't
Mm.
have the right to push me. You haven't earned the right. So there was a little bit
Right.
of that resistance coming from my autonomy. And then the second piece is that I started to realize that everything they were pointing me to are things that I'm so unfamiliar with. I was so like, I don't know anything about starting a business. I have not the least idea of where to begin. And so it panicked me. It was like jumping into the deep end into some,
Scary.
murky bottom body of water. And those are the two things that I would say that were like the trademarks of a DIYer. If we get offended when people, well-meaning people, even strangers or friends, are telling us to do something and we're resistant because we don't want people to
Mhm.
be telling us what to do or how to do something. That's a hint. And the second one, if the idea of not knowing how to do something stops us from doing anything, that's another clue right there that you might be a chronic DIYer. And so once I started to confront that over time, I realized, oh, it's because I don't know what to do that it has stopped me from even asking the right questions. But I'm like, I'm an adult. I know how to Google. I know how to ask a question. And so finally, um, and the smallest question I could ask Ginger at the time, once I kind of had my wits about me, was how much does like a domain cost? She's trying to be all like, I don't really care to know, like, if you wanna tell me, whatever, you know? She's like, "How much does that?" I was like, "How much does a domain cost anyway?" And she's like, this one is $21.50 for 2 years." That was like, "What?
Uh,
That's
uh,
it?" And I just thought I don't think I told her anything at the moment, but inside I was like, "I'm being ridiculous like this over a
uh,
$21.50 investment."
absolutely.
And
Well,
so that was kinda like the domino when the domino finally fell. I'd been kind of getting little pushes, 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 and finally, when
right.
she told me that, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna surrender and see where this takes me." And sure
Yeah.
enough, Daniela, I can't even tell you how many people came out of the woodwork when I raised my hand and said, "Okay, I'm gonna explore this. I need help." And a friend of mine who's a CPA told me, "Hey, this is how you file for an LLC." Another friend of mine who was a bookkeeper, "Here's how you create and put together your financial systems." Another
Right.
friend who like all kinds of people that I knew and cared for me, like, I had the parallel, I had the connectors, I had the supporters, I
Yeah.
had the challengers,
Oh,
all of them showed up. But it started with challengers. Those 3 conversations that kept pushing me, pushing me, pushing me were all challengers, all people who had my best interests at heart, who were complete strangers, really, but somehow saw something that I was missing.
so I love how they manifested this fabulous life that you have.
Oh,
I
thank
love
you.
that,
Thanks to
right?
them.
Because
Yeah.
they really they manifested it for you. I love that you were courageous enough to to take the leap and to self-reflect, right? Because sometimes we're just not.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are very comfortable in our comfort zone and we do not want to, even if we have a slight bit of curiosity,
Mm.
we are very comfortable in our space. And
Yeah.
when you are in a situation where you've been laid off, which I know many of my listeners, unfortunately, in today's market are in that
Mhm.
spot, you become very guarded.
Yeah.
And so I love that you gave yourself that allowance, right?
Mhm.
To self-reflect and realize that you were being triggered, and self-reflected to see why you were being triggered,
Mhm.
and then ask the little questions about how much is that domain. And so then that makes but that little
Yeah.
question made it not seem so scary
That
anymore.
huge.
And it gave you the grace and the ability to be vulnerable and to
Exactly.
have these conversations because I know when you're and listen, I've been there, right? So when you're in corporate for so long and you're so successful and you love what you do, and then you're thrust into this world of, I don't have a job. I have to
Yeah.
find a job, you know, and it's a scary place to be of do I market myself and sell my skills here as a product, right? Because now you go into being the product.
Yeah.
It can be really scary. So I'm grateful for you that you had these group of manifestors and connectors around you that challenged you
Yeah.
to look at the great person you are with all of the fantastic skills and abilities and
Mm,
things that you can offer the
mm.
world. And I'm grateful for them. So shout out to them
Shout
that,
out to them. Cheers. Cheers to
yeah,
them. I could use some water and
that's
a little
really,
drink there.
yeah,
Woo.
no, that's really awesome. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important, and for the listeners out there, it's important that you find those people in your life, and they don't, this is an excellent example that it doesn't need to be somebody that you have a deep relationship with.
No,
This can be somebody that you meet out somewhere that
exactly.
may just need that go and freaking do whatever the heck it is you
Yeah.
want to do,
Yeah.
right? Take life by the horns and own it, because you got one shot, right?
Mm.
One shot. And between now and dead, where is it that you want to be? Where do you, and you don't know when that is, right?
Well,
You
hopefully
we
more than one shot. I mean, one shot between now and dead. That seems that.
One shot
Ooh,
to live the best life, right? Between now and dead, not one shot out of business. One shot to do the best that
this is
you
the
can do.
life. Yeah, this is the one life that we have right now. So go for it. Yeah,
Embrace every day. Tomorrow is not promised, right?
100%.
Connect with the people, influence where you can, give. That's why this is called the Give Back, because it's
Yeah.
all about influencing and contributing to the greater good of society wherever it is that you can, in
Hmm.
whatever way you can. And it may be as simple as wishing somebody a good day in an elevator,
Yeah.
or actually going out of your way to listen to somebody's woes and contribute some. Sometimes it's unsolicited feedback, and sometimes it's not
Yeah.
always well accepted, but I am a big believer that if it comes from a authentically genuine, meaningful, good place, that it will hit well,
Yeah.
right? It may not hit them well, like it didn't hit you well. It was all intentionally giving. It was all positive intentions coming your way, and we're gonna manifest this for you. And you were like, "Oh,
I'm not
there's no
ready.
way."
I'm not ready. Stop it. Stop. Stop.
Yes, yes. But I love that it did. I
Blocking the
love that it
blessing. I'm just
did.
blocking the blessing. Phew. Oh,
I
I want
love
to.
I love that.
I
It's
want to
so
say
great.
something, especially, the what I mentioned earlier about the concept of giving back is just give. Is I think sometimes we also think that it has to be reciprocal in some way,
Yeah,
right? I think especially women, we tend to want to give. If somebody gives to us, we want to give right back to them. We don't want to owe anybody anything. We don't want there to be an imbalance of sorts. But I've also learned that these well-meaning people, because I didn't know them, I didn't have any deep relationship with them, did not expect anything from me in return. It's not like, well, let me coach you to find your next job, or let me introduce you. There was none of that. And so what I've learned also is that it's a circle, because a circle is infinite, and
yeah,
where you give doesn't always mean where you receive, right?
right,
I might give to my left, and hopefully at some point in time, it'll come all the way back around on my right from some other source. And so
right,
part of it is just to give, to make a contribution that will be helpful, that is meaningful, that the intention is to serve. And in any way, shape, or form that comes back may not be in the same form that I gave it. Right. And
right.
so I use my business as a way to also give. I remember, I'll share this one anecdote, that when I started, because now I'm no longer, I'm no longer an employee. I wasn't receiving a paycheck or salary. I had to now negotiate a fee for my services.
Mm,
And it was kind of awkward at the very beginning, until I went to a luncheon. It was a lunch and learn. The person that was speaking was super inspirational, and at the lunch, people were talking about the speaker, and I overheard. This was not even a conversation for me. I was overhearing these two young professionals, two young ladies, talking about how they'd wish they'd had that conversation when they were in high school or college, and that would have been so meaningful. And how both their parents were immigrants to this country and just didn't have enough knowledge or exposure
mm.
to the college life or the professional career life that could have helped them learn this stuff until now. And as I was listening to them, I was like, well, I'm also an immigrant. I've been in these corporate professional spaces. I went to college. I should be probably helping and giving in some way
Mm,
to a community like this. Huh. And so after that, I reached out to a mentor of mine, and I was like, where are there high school students or college students that would benefit from someone like me coming to share or to mentor or something? And she pointed me in a direction of a local um, college readiness program for 7th to
Right.
12th graders. And so I started volunteering there as a coach of public speaking coach for the
Mhm.
7th and 8th graders. Imagine that. And then
That's
also
awesome.
did some work with on other projects. And first of all, because I started to give of my best, like my talent, this is what I love to do. My first paid gig came from another volunteer in the
Uh,
same program who saw me doing my thing, right? And
right.
I was like, "Oh, it wasn't that the organization was owing me anything. It was a volunteer thing, but the opportunity for me to give came right back."
Right. I love that. And I mean, that is an incredible point, right? Because it is about putting back into the world,
Mm,
and you will receive from other sources, right? And you say about, how women feel the need to just keep the ping pong back and forth.
reciprocal, yeah.
So I remember, you get a gift from someone, you send a thank you note. And then I had this one acquaintance that would then send a thank you note for the thank you note. So it's like, what am I supposed to send you a thank you note for the thank you note for the thank you note? What does this stop? When does this stop?
Yeah.
So as a joke, I just scratched out her name on the thank you note for the thank you note, and I wrote my name and I said, "Tag, you're it." Like, when does this stop? But that was an excellent example of, you know, giving back doesn't necessarily have to be to someone who has given you something. It can be. And the purpose of this podcast
Mhm.
is to celebrate diversity of thought, to
Yeah.
celebrate people where they're at, the things that they've learned that they have to share in hopes that we can inspire others, right? Other Valeries who may have just lost their job and are afraid and not knowing what to do and may be triggered by somebody making some, I know when
Yeah.
I lost my job and I was making the shift, it was like, well, go find another job. Well,
Mhm.
okay, but I also have these skills that could benefit small, medium-sized businesses. So why should they not have the benefit of having
Mm.
this global compliance, ERP, like all of this
Yeah.
knowledge in this AI space and this era, right? Where it's like, why can't they benefit from this for a
Mhm.
fraction of the price that big corporate? So I can either take myself and
Mhm.
saddle myself into a big corporate job,
Mm.
right? And if I found the right company, I would love that. I love corporate. I love being with people. I love influencing. But I also love working with small and medium-sized
Mm.
businesses in certain capacities where they can now, they want to get into AI. What does that mean? And it's a little
Mm.
scary. And then there's the sexy and the not so sexy stuff around AI, right? Like, how's your data? Data and infrastructure pushes AI, and you
Yeah.
can, AI is your Ferrari, but if your data and infrastructure is a Hyundai, you're not going to get very far. Right? Because you're now taking
Yeah.
the Hyundai engine, putting it in the
Yeah.
Ferrari, and it'll go down the street, but not that fast.
Mm.
Kind of like owning a Ferrari on Long Island, which is hysterical because there's traffic everywhere. You can't go more than 20 miles an hour. Um, so it's a colossal waste of money. But I digress. But yeah, it is about encouraging others and having these conversations. And I love that you worked with the high school and the college kids,
Mhm.
um, because we hear Gary V a lot say, oh, college is a waste of money, and it
Mm.
very well may be. It very well may be a waste of money,
Hmm.
right? Depending on the student and what they're looking to get out of it. And if you're sending somebody to college who's coming back to just, work in an established family business
Mhm.
that may require licensing, maybe college is a waste of money because
Mhm.
maybe they just need to get licensed, right? And they can hit the ground running faster. Um, I don't know. Every person is different. I
Mm.
think that college is an excellent way to get our young people to demonstrate that they can be on their own, making decisions, right? Kind of like stumble and fall along the way and actually be productive,
Mhm.
um, and have an accomplishment that they own. It's the very
Yeah.
first accomplishment that they own. So in certain situations, it may be a waste of money, but not always. And um, I think that as you go through advanced degrees, that conversation holds a little bit stronger, right? How much of
Mm,
that, how professional are you going? And now with the whole politics around what's a professional engagement
mm,
certification or degree and not a professional
yeah,
certification or degree. Um, and that pendulum will swing back and forth.
yeah,
But I believe it's really important for people in our position, that have experienced life and have lived through these experiences of corporate and small businesses and starting a business and working with people in all different industries and walks of life to mentor and
mhm,
to give back of our time. And I love that you kind of found yourself into that. I
yeah,
think that the universe, Valerie, has given back to you so much. I'm so excited to hear because
yeah,
between the manifestation of moving you from corporate and into this space and then leading you into a position where you're coaching and teaching public speaking to a bunch of
people,
seventh and eighth graders is huge because it's such a self-esteem builder.
mm, amazing
Um,
work, yeah, and
like
to see
we
some of
talk.
them grow and how they even if I mean, not all of them are ready for all the things, right? There's a like, sometimes maturity that needs to happen to catch up, but they
Sure.
all evolved in some meaningful way, and I think that the word that I wanted to use is what we're giving back to is the collective. Right? We're
Yes.
giving back to the
Yes.
collective society, or giving back to the community, and so much has to do with identifying what we're committed to. Whether or
Right.
not we pursue a higher education or not, whether or not we decide to volunteer or not, whether or not we decide to, have a certain type of business or not. Like all of those things are, if we can get clear on what we're committed to, like what is it that we care about, what's
Right.
important to us. And for me, growth, self development, um, coming alive, like doing something that makes me happy, bringing me joy, bringing other people joy, helping people align with that. Like all of those things are the things I'm committed to. So as long as I'm doing it in that same vein, right?
Yeah.
Finding those avenues and the vehicle doesn't really matter how I
Right.
get there, right? Or whether I'm in a Ferrari or a Hyundai, it doesn't matter as
Yeah.
much sometimes as what's my destination? Like where am I headed? And so that's
Right.
where I think sometimes we get stuck so much in the vehicle that we get. And yeah, maybe the vehicle is more comfortable in some ways, or maybe it looks good in some environments, but more than anything, is it going to get us to where we ultimately want to go, in the
Right.
direction that we want to go.
Right, it's that solid foundation. It's
Hmm.
a great solid foundation to build off of. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a fantastic and inspiring conversation.
Thank
I
you.
hope that can you share with us your contact information so we can have it in this podcast and anybody can look you up because I encourage.
Absolutely. I think the easiest would be my website, valeriehope.com. VALERIEHOPE.com. And I'll update everything as soon as the book is complete. I'll make sure to put information there on how people can pre-order. But I also have the Circle of Hope podcast that people can listen to, which will continue down this path of like, this is part of my giving back to the collective. Here's some lessons, not only mine, but the people that I talk to about how they found those relationships that help them grow and thrive. And so, yeah, I'm happy to connect with anybody that's interested in listening to hear and learn more.
That's awesome. And I also invite them to connect with you on LinkedIn. I think that
Yes.
that's also a
That's
great
how we
source.
found each other.
That's right. That's a great source of connection and finding other connectors. So
Sure.
thank you so much for your time. It has been a
Thank you.
pleasure. I look forward to your reading your book and continuing to follow along your journey. And anybody who would like to learn more about Valerie, I encourage you to connect with her. She is fabulous and such a giving human. So thank you, Valerie. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Daniela. It was lovely to be here.
Thank you. All right. That's it, folks, for this episode of the Give Back Lab. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us today in the Give Back Lab. If today's conversation moved you, challenged you, or made you just feel seen, share it forward. That's how change begins. Until next time, keep showing up, keep speaking truth, and giving back in your own way. The lab is always open.